Hey, what's up guys, it's Theo from Fino Concept. So this is going to be a beginner's guide to Adobe Photoshop Lightroom Classic. There are several of them. I'm not talking about the one you can install on your computer, your tablet, your phone and other things that require you to sign in before you can use. I'm talking about the Adobe Lightroom Classic that you install natively on your desktop or your laptop alone, and you can edit it without having to sign in. Anyway, if you're interested in Photoshop, After Effects, Premiere Pro or WordPress, I already have created the tutorials on them, so I'll have them linked in the description below. Now that is all out of the way, let's just get started. Welcome to Fino Concept. Click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on any of our future videos. Alright, let's go ahead and open up our application. For this tutorial, I'm using Adobe Photoshop Lightroom Classic. So let's quickly talk about the interface. Like any other software, you have these tabs at the top. We have the File, Edit, Library, Photo. Now if you take a look at the left hand side, this is where most of your settings are going to be. So if you have some templates or some presets and you are importing them, this is where they are going to show. It's also going to show your history and other things like the navigator. When you look at the right hand side, this is where you are going to be altering the settings of the particular image or the particular module which you are in. When you look at the top here, we have the library, the develop, map, book, slideshow, print and web. These are what we call the modules. So over here is the map module, we have the print module and so on and so forth. On your right hand side, these are where all your settings are going to be. So if you are making changes to a particular image, this is where you are going to do that. In case you are in the print model, your settings are going to be here for the print model. In case you are using the develop option or the develop module, the settings for the develop modules are also going to be here. As simple as that. And the bottom here where you are going to be able to see all the photos we've imported. So if you have a bunch of images or a bunch of videos you have imported into Lightroom, they are all going to show in a great form at the bottom here. And last but not the least is this big workspace we have here. This is going to show you what you are currently working on. I like to call it the workspace. So everything you are working on at the moment, you are going to be seeing in this huge area right here. Now quick tip, in case you want to see everything in full screen, you just click on these arrows right here and it's going to switch over to full screen. So there are 4 arrows. We have the one at the top, the one at the left hand side, the one at the right hand side and the one at the bottom. So in case you have some images in here, this is going to show hugely, fill up the entire screen. Now when you hover at the top, you can see that the options come back. The same way you go to your right or your left or your bottom, all those options are going to come back. Now if you want it to be permanently back, you just have to click on those arrows one more time. Now you can see that anytime it is not active, the arrows are turning to this grid layer. Now when I click on it, it turns back to a solid arrow. That makes you know that it is permanent now. So now that we know the interface of our library, let's take a quick look at the other modules. So I honestly want to talk about the develop as the last module. So if you go to the map module, you see that the interface changes a little bit. The navigator is still here and we have a few different options also here. Now for the map module, if you shot your images in RAW or you had the GPS on, it's going to show you exactly where you took the picture on the world map. In case you don't also have that, you can also set a current location of where you took that image yourself. Unfortunately, I'm offline. You can see map is offline, so I can't show you much in here. But this tutorial is mostly based on the photo editing aspect, so we are just going to be talking about this very quickly. Now if you move over to the book module, this is where if you have some particular images you want to print out in the book, you can just add them in here. You can see I already said that the right side shows you more options. So in case you want to add a new page, you can just do that, and if you click on this icon right here, you can select how many images you want to add in that particular page. So that is very simple. You can also add slideshows in Lightroom. So if you have a PowerPoint presentation and you just want to show a slideshow of your images, you can also do that from here. Like I said previously, the settings are always going to be here, so you'll be able to change them. I'll be making more tutorials on this in subsequent videos, so if you're interested in that, let me know the particular module you'll be interested in learning about so I can make videos on that. Now if you move over to the print module, this is very simple. You import your images in here, you make a few changes to them, and you are able to print them out. Now I'm using the Canon IP7240 series, but this is the current drivers I've installed for this, so that's why it's showing us here. So in case I have an image that I'm done editing and I want to print it out, I can just move to the print module and just print it out the way I want it. The exact same thing goes for the web module. So if you have some HTML5 websites that you want to have your images in there, you can just add a photo gallery and just export it as an HTML5 photo on your website. Alright, so let's go back to our library module. This is where we are going to start the whole process. So let's import some images. Now to import an image, you can just click on the import option right here, or just move to File, Import Photos and Video, and this new dialog box is going to show. So this is where you are going to select where your current images are. So in my case, it's on my desktop in the folder called Lightroom Tutorial, and you can see these are the images I have in there. Like I said previously, you can also import videos, but you will not be able to edit them in Lightroom. So there are these options at the bottom here. You can click on uncheck all to uncheck all of these images. Then you can just hold down the control key and select which ones you want to import. But I want to import everything, so I'll just click on this check all option and I'm going to import all of these images. Now I can use this thumbnail slider to increase or decrease the size of your images. So in case you want to see a huge thumbnail of your images, you can pretty much do that. Apart from that, you can click on this icon which allows you to see them one after the other. So if I use the forward arrow key or the right arrow key and the left arrow key, I can just pretty much go through all of my images. Now if you want to include it in an import, you just click on this checkbox right here. So I'm going to bring down the thumbnail back to here, and there are a bunch of other things in the right hand side that you can also add. So if I go to file handling, you can pretty much see where you want to handle these images, and you can also apply during import. That is if you have a specific preset which you are going to be creating later on in this video. If you have a specific preset like black and white, you want to make all of them black and white, you can just apply this to them when you are importing. But I normally don't do that. I only apply when I'm actually editing. So once I have all my images selected, I'll just click on import. Now at any point in time when Lightroom is working, you'll be able to see it at the top left over here. So currently you can see fetching initial previews. If you're exporting or adding some particular settings, you'll be able to see them also at the top here. Alright, so our images are imported, and if I click on each and individual one, you'll be able to see their specific histogram, the lens I shot with, and a few other things in case you want to check them out. We are not going to be going through in this video though. Now for the navigator allows you to see where you are currently working on. So if I select a different image, you see that the navigator also changes to that particular image. For the library, we can't actually edit any of your videos or photos, we can only just look at them. So to edit them, you have to go to the develop module. So I'll just click on that. Now in the develop module, there are tons of things we can do to the image. Now quick tip, in case you want to move between images, you can just use the left arrow key or the right arrow key to move back and forth. But if you have edited something, let's say I increase the exposure, if I move forward, the exposure is going to be increasing. You can see from here. So using the left or the right arrow keys is not going to work. So if you want to move to a different image whilst a setting is active, just hold down the control key and press the arrow key. I'll quickly undo using Ctrl Z in all cases. If you want to redo, you have to use Ctrl Shift and Z. Alright, so let's quickly go through the few settings for each image. Let's start with the first image with the red top. Now the histogram gives us a short diagram of how our colors are shown in this image. So you can see the reds are a little bit at the middle, we have the yellows all the way up. We hardly have any greens and blues in this image except for the background, so the histogram shows us a few of them. Now there are these other options at the bottom which I'm going to talk about very briefly. The first one is the crop tool. So if you want to crop a specific size of the image like so, you can just select that area, and when you're done, just click on this done button right here and it's going to crop it up. I'll quickly undo using Ctrl Z. The next is the spot remover tool. So in case you have a particular area you want to take out, let's just say this part, I can just sample that area and I can use this second cursor to clone whatever information is here over to that side, and you can see it covers up that area. So when I click done, you can see it removes that area for me. The next one is the red eye correction. I don't have any red eye here at the moment, so unfortunately I can't show you. Now this works best if you had your flash on when you're taking the picture and you see this red eye effect. It's more or less like the flashlight is on the eyes of the person and the reflection is showing as a red eye effect. You just use this to sample that particular area of the eye. So you just sample it like so, and it's just going to take out that red eye effect and make it black for you. Very simple. Now the next one is for gradients. So if you want to add some gradient to your images, you can just use this graduated filter here. So if I click on it and I just click on any part of the image, you can see once I drag it over like so, you have this nice looking gradient over the image, and you'll be able to increase or decrease the exposure, the contrast, and some few other things like so. And once you are done, you just click on this done icon right here and it is just going to go away. But I don't want that, so I'll just click on this reset icon right here. So that's going to reset it to whatever I have. The next one is the radial filter. It basically does the same thing as the gradient filter, just that this time around is a circular one. So again, if you want to increase or decrease anything at all, it's just going to show like so. You can also just invert this selection by clicking on this invert icon right here, and it's going to show at the place it wasn't showing previously. So if I click on invert again, it's just going to invert that selection. I'll again click on the reset icon right here, and basically that's it. The next one is the adjustment brush. This works only where you brush. So if I want to increase the exposure or change a particular thing over here or these 3 points, you can just use the adjustment brush to do that. So let's add in a third point. Then if I increase the exposure, you see that it only works at where I had those brushes in there. Again, I'll just reset that. And before we get into an actual editing of an image, if you take a close look at the navigator, we have a few other options. We have the fill, which will fill up the entire screen. We have the 1:1 aspect ratio, and we have the 3:1 aspect ratio. I usually set mine to fit or fill depending on how intense I want to see the work, and basically that's it for me. Now you can also use the short key Z on your keyboard to alter between these two changes you've made. So if I just use the shift key, it's just going to be going through the previous two zoom options I just set. If I select 3:1 and fit and I press Z on my keyboard, it just moves through 3:1 and fit. Now anytime a tool is active and you just want it to go away, you just click on the tool one more time and it is just going to go away. So let's just start editing. So this is my image right here. Honestly, I want to edit this one first because I have already edited this image. So I'll start with this image. But before that, there are some other icons down here I want to show you very quickly. Now we have the R on one side and the A on the other side. What this does is, when I click on it, it allows you to add in a reference photo. So let's just say I had an image before and I want to copy or manipulate my image to look like that particular image. I can just import it in here and just do that from there. And we have the Y and Y. This allows you to cycle between before and after. If I click on it again, it's going to show like so. So let me just increase the exposure a little bit, and you can see that this is the after and this is the before. If I click on it one more time, it can also show in landscape view or like this, but I usually set mine as that. let's take the exposure back down to 0. So I'm going to leave mine as this. Usually this is what I do because I want to see how much editing I have made on the image to better understand whether I've deformed the image or it is looking better than it already was. Now there are some few options here. If we go ahead and turn on the basic, these are the options we can go with. We have color and we have black and white. Black and white allows us to edit all of this in monochrome, so that is one single color for the image. I usually set mine to color and leave it as that. Now I didn't shoot this image in RAW, so I have very little information to work with. Anyway, we have the temp. This allows you to make the image cool or warmer. We have the tint, making it greenish or purple, I don't know. So I'll just bring this down a little bit. I want to have some form of village look on this, so I'll set the temperature 5% positive on the warmer side, and I'll make this -5, making it look a little bit greenish. I should probably just make it -2 instead. Now usually you can also just click on the auto and it's going to set a particular basic settings for you. I'm not quite okay with this. I like to do it myself, but if you want the computer to analyze and give you its own understanding of the image and how best it thinks the image should look, you can always do that. I like to keep my exposure somewhere between 0.3 and 0.5 for every image, and the contrast is always 5. The highlights, I usually turn it down to -100, and the white also comes down a little bit. Now the highlight represents the harsh portions or the brighter areas of the image. So if you take a look at this, we have this part being blown out, we have some parts on her face. All of these areas are what we call the highlights. So if I bring it down a little bit, you can see that we are able to get some few details, especially when it comes to her clothes as well. You can take a look at that. So I usually send my highlights down so that I can see much details. The shadows, I always bring it up, so somewhere between 20 and 50, so that the darker portions can also look a little bit bright. Like I said previously, the whites or the white areas like her dress and the socks right here, I also bring them down. I usually use -75, but for this I'll just be going with -50. And the blacks, I also bring them down. I like having my blacks because the shadows are up. I usually bring the blacks down so that these areas can also look darker. So probably -30 should do just fine. Now for the texture, this represents how much details you want. So if I quickly zoom in a little bit to show you what it does, if I increase the texture, you can see that it shows more details on the image, more or less like it sharpens it up. So for the texture, I usually bring it down to about -20, and I rather increase the clarity. The clarity is about the same as the texture, just that it is much darker than the texture. So the clarity about 20, and the dehaze is usually set to none. My vibrance, I set it to -5. Vibrance refers to how, I think it makes sense, how vibrant the image is looking. And I usually set the saturation to 5 so that I can see more colors. So that is basically it for the basic. I don't usually do so much apart from this, and basically that's all. So I just hide it by clicking on it one more time. Now if I go to the tone curve, this is where you can add in some curves. So usually we just set it to an S curve, so you have the harsh portions moving up and we have the dark portions moving down, something like this. But obviously this is not what I'm going to be using for my image. And in case you don't want to be using this curve or it's too confusing for you, you can also use these sliders that you have at the bottom, and it's going to create the exact curve for you at the top. I'm quickly going to undo because this is not what I want for any of my images. So basically that's it for the tone curve. One more thing, if I just set it to something like this and you don't want to make this tone curve visible, just click on this icon right here. So this is going to turn it off, and if you click on it again, it's just going to turn it on. And this applies to everything. So in case we move over to HSL or color or any other thing, you can just use these lock icons to turn them off and on. So I'm going to set this back to 0 so that everything will look like it was already. Now let's move on to the next one, which is the HSL, and we have the color. I'll be talking about this first. Now what hue, saturation, luminance, and all actually brings you a list of all three of them. The first one is the hue. The hue actually helps you change the color or alter how the colors looks. So if you look at this, we have some few red colors over here and there. So if I go ahead and turn the red down, you can see that it changes to a pink color because I moved it over to the left hand side of the slider. If I bring it up, you see that the colors also change. The same way, if I have any orange, so the oranges is going to be the clothes and the face. So if I bring it to other side, you can see how this looks. The same applies for the yellows and the greens. Now usually what I do is for the green part, I like to set it to a more yellowish color, especially for the leaves. That is, if I want to add it to my village preset, I just turn it over here. So this makes it looks like a more autumn color. Now you can see that once I move it, it is also affecting the clothes here because there's a little bit of green in there. So I'm just going to turn this over to somewhere around here. And basically that is it. We don't have that much blue in there, so if I move the slider, you realize that it only affects that particular area. I meant aqua, by the way. Right, so that's it for the hue. For the saturation, it refers to how much color you want in there. So like I was saying previously, if I want to increase the saturation of the red, you see that it looks a little bit too saturated. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. Or it looks more vibrant, I should say. If I turn it down, this looks like a grayscale image. So that is it for the saturation. For the luminance, it refers to how bright you want those particular levels to be. So we were working with the green where I made it look a little bit yellowish. If I increase the luminance of the green, it looks much brighter. If I bring it down, it looks much darker. So usually I also bring it up just by a little. Let's just say about that. And I also bring up the orange, that is for their color. I also bring it up a little bit so that it can look a little bit whitish. This is something I do, but we are not going through that tutorial today. So for the colors, you can also pretty much do the exact same thing. We have the exact same settings over here, and this allows you to just select the same individual colors you want to manipulate as we are having with the HSL. Now this also applies for the split toning, but what this allows you to do is if you click on this box icon right here, you'll be able to select a specific color you want, and this is going to be affected in the this is going to affect the entire image. So if I go ahead and just turn it down, you realize that this is what I have. Usually to make this work, you have to set this to a much darker color so that it doesn't look so saturated like so. So I usually bring it somewhere around here. I want this image to look greenish or bluish, so depending on how you want it. I want mine to look greenish, so I'll have it over at the green side and I'll bring it down like so that it doesn't look so weird. And that is for the highlights. The shadows, you can pretty much do the exact same thing. So if you want blue for the shadows, you can also do that, and you'll be able to increase or decrease the saturation. The saturation, I'll leave mine at 10 and do the exact same thing here. Now this is looking too much, so I'll probably set it to about 5, and that is okay for me. Now if you move over to detail, this refers to how much sharpen you want your image to look. Now usually I just set this to the face so that I can see how much sharpness I'm adding to the image. Now you can see if I set it to 150, this image looks very sharp, so I'll have to bring it down. Obviously somewhere around 20 should do just fine. And you'll be able to reduce the noise also, just like what we had in the basic with the texture and the clarity. So having it somewhere around here, it makes it look a little bit weird, like the beauty mode on your smartphone camera at the moment. So basically that's it for the detail. For the lens correction, usually I set mine to remove chromatic aberration if there's any, and enable profile correction. Now this is best if you have some form of vignetting at the corners of your image. So if you go to enable profile correction, you'll be able to. Now since I didn't shoot this in RAW, Lightroom is unable to identify which lens I use. If I did, it will just identify it over here. Now since I don't have that, I have to select it myself. So I'll click on on this none icon right here and go to Canon, and I'll set it to the Canon EF 50mm. So that is what I'm going with. Now you can also alter how this thing is distorted. If I bring it down, you can see that it shows over at the corners. If I send it up, usually I leave mine at 100 by 100 for the vignetting, because that's what my PC thinks is okay for me. You can also just adjust it manually, but I usually just leave it in the profile options. You have the transform in case you want to change the orientation of your image. You can just use this to also do that. Obviously you are not going to make yours as red as mine, so basically that is it. There's also effects. This part I never dive in because I don't know if I'm going to be using this. It just doesn't make so much sense to me, but they are there in case you just want to go through them. And for the last part, we have the calibrations. This is also for the colors, just like the HSL and the colors option. So if I go ahead and just turn down the shadows to the green part, you can pretty much see. Now if you look over to this area, if I zoom in and turn it to green, you can see the difference. So yeah, I think I'll probably just set it here so that I have a little bit of bluish in there. If you want to change the red colors, so you can also do that. I'll leave mine at 0, and the green I can still bring it to the yellow part, so I have more in there, but I'll probably just change it in the HSL rather than the calibrations. So basically that is it for the whole editing process. Now there's something I want to quickly talk about. Now if you see, if I hover to the next image and the image after that, I have pretty much the exact look or similar images. So what I can do is I can copy these settings and paste it on the remaining two. So to do that, I make sure that I select the first image, hold down the shift or the control key and just select these three also. Now once I do that, if you look over to the bottom here, the previous options changes to sync. So if I click on sync right here, I'm greeted with this dialog box, which allows me to check the part I want to copy the settings to or synchronize to. So I can pretty much just turn off some of them, but I want to have the exact same look, so I just click on synchronize for all of them, synchronize or synchronize. So if I move over to the next image, you can see that we have the exact look I had for the previous one also over here, and the same applies for the third image as well. Now if I move over to the next image, this one I want to take away this particular portion, so I'll just be using the spot remover and I'll just sample that area, and you can see it's already adjusted for me, and I'll just click on done. I can see that part is already gone. I can also do the exact same thing for here and click on done, and it's just going to take it away from me. So let's quickly edit this and I'll be back to you in a second.
There are so many choices that it's hard not to pass. What is real and what is fake, and the risk we have to take. Will we know what is throwing off our balance? We cannot sink into the dark. The vertigo is getting sharp. There's something.
Alright, so this is the look I have for this, and you can pretty much see the before and the after. So let's just say I want to save this preset. I like this image I have edited and I just want to have it saved somewhere so that at any point in time I can just go back and pick it up and apply it to whatever image I'm editing. Now if you go over to the left hand side, you can see that we have presets. You can hover over any of them to see how they are going to affect your image. Now honestly, I don't like any of the presets that Lightroom comes pre-installed with. Some of them look okay, but I'm just not comfortable using them on any of my images. So what I'll do is I'll just click on this plus icon right here and I'll go to create preset. So currently there's no name, so I can just call it village preset, making sure that all of these are checked. So these are the corrections I made whilst editing these images, and I'll just click on create. So now you can see that my user preset, if I go into that, I have my village preset in there. So if I move over to this image and I want to apply that same preset, I just go over to presets and just click on village preset, and you can see that it is immediately applied to that image for me. The same way I can just do the exact same thing for this also and pretty much have that Now at any point in time, if I don't like the look, now once I have the preset on top, I can still make changes to however the image looks like using the settings that are provided for me. So let's just say I feel like bringing back the greens. Sorry, I have to go to hue and I'll bring back the green to, I don't know, something like this, and I'll turn this all the way down, probably send the yellow, or probably this is looking nice to me. Of course, this is not looking nice to me, let's just say. Alright, so probably this is looking nice to me. What I can do is I can hover over the village preset, right click on it and go to update with current settings. So once I click on that, I just click on update and it's going to update the village presets I have there. Obviously, I'm not going to be using this. This is looking weird. I'll probably just use this one instead. So you can also make changes to your preset. And if you want to delete it, to just right click and go to delete, and you'll be able to delete that from your presets. As simple as that. I'll quickly cancel that one too. Alright, so we are done editing all of our images. How do we import them? Now before we import, there's something we call watermarks, which I add to my images before. So this is an example of a watermark which I have of my logo right here. So this is going to be applied to whatever image that is being exported in Lightroom. So to add the watermark, just go to the edit tab, which is up here, click on edit watermarks, and let me quickly enlarge this so that you can see the entire screen. We have two options. We have the text and we have the graphics. The text allows you to just add a basic text, very simple. So if I select Roboto, which I'm going to be using, and I'll pretty much set this to center alignment, of course. And if you want to add in some shadows, the opacity I'll always set it to 100%. Offset, I don't know, I never do this for the shadow, so I'll just turn off the shadow. No, I actually have to bring it up, probably 50%. Offset is going to be very minimal. So watermarks effect, the opacity is set to 100. I usually turn mine down to about 80 so that the shadows can fill up those remaining areas. The size, I set mine to 5 so that it's not looking so huge. And if you set it to fit, it's just going to fill up the, fit the image size. Fill is just going to fill up the entire screen. So I'll just set mine to proportional and have the size set to 5. Now you can also change the rotation using the horizontal and vertical sliders. This I also leave mine at 2 and 2 for this also. And currently for all my images, this is set to the center, not left align, not right align, just the center at the bottom here. Now once you are done with this, you can just click on save and give a name to this. So let's just call this text watermark and just click on create. So we are done with that. If you go ahead and export an image, let's just export this particular image. So I have that image selected. I'll go to file, go to export, and I'll select a particular place where I want to export to. So in my case, I'm just setting it to desktop. We'll be going through this in a couple of seconds, and I'll just click on export. So like I said previously, if anything is being done in Lightroom, you see it at the top left side here. So if I open up my file explorer and we go to the desktop, you can see for the untitled export, we have the image in here. Alright, so we have that. Now let's create a second one, file, edit watermarks. This time around, we'll be using the graphic option. So go to graphic and your file explorer is going to open up. So for graphic, you can actually add in an image. So I'll go to pictures and I'll pick a PNG image of my logo. So that is this one I'm going to be using, and just click on choose. Now you can see how this one is looking like. Now we can also apply the same effect we've been applying to the other ones. So I'll set this to 5 and I'll set this to the center like so. Once I'm done, I'll just click on nope, I have to actually change this to 2 so that it moves up a little bit, and I'll just click on save. So I'll call this graphic and just click on create. Now at any point in time, if you want to change your watermarks, still go to edit, go to watermarks, select the particular watermarks you want to alter. So probably text watermark. Now I don't want to use copyright anymore, so I'll just change it to Theo Labi. Now I have this. If you click on save, it's going to create it as a new preset, so don't do that. Just go back to the top here and click on update preset text watermark, and this is going to be updated. Once you are done, just click on done and you have that. So let's go ahead and export this image using the text and see if it worked. So go to file, go to export. Now let's quickly go through this. So currently I have my export location set to desktop in a folder called Untitled Export, and I'm going to leave it as that. Now the options here are pretty much self-explanatory, so I don't want to be going too much into details, but you can also just change the file name to, I don't know, whatever you want. You can also have a custom file name if you prefer that. So if you want something like tutorial, you can just type in tut or something and it's just going to show like so. I always leave the resolution 240 pixels per inch. Everything else is the same, but before you export I have to change the watermarks here. So I click on watermark and select which watermark I want to apply to my image. So I'll select the text watermark and click on export. Now if you look up here, you can see that Lightroom is exporting the image and it's done. So if I go ahead and open up my file explorer and quickly go to desktop, you see we have that folder called Untitled Export, and I open it up. Now if I bring this over here, if we open that image up, you can see that we have our text watermark in here like so. So let's just close that up and export another image. This time around, let's export the image of the mother and the daughter. So I'll go to file, export, and let's use the graphic watermark and click on export. Yeah, overwrite. Alright, so it's done. If I go in there and open it up, you can see that we have the graphic there like so. So basically that's it. If you want to export several images, you can use the shortcut Control A to select all of them, but in case you just want to use just one or a few of them, you can just use the Control key. So if I select this, holding down the Control key, I can select that and probably this one as well. So these are the only ones which are going to be exported, and I'll go to file, click on export, and I'll do the exact same thing, or I'll just use export with previous. So that's going to export with the previous options, and I'll just click on that. So currently Lightroom is exporting 5 files, and once it is done, we'll be able to see those images. You can also just preview them from here. So basically that is it. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to watch more of our videos, hit that subscribe button, and as always, don't forget to share with your family and friends. This is Theo from Concept, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.